we've been using the applications the whole time so far for all this these examples, but commands are another kind of add-in. Command is like the wall tool. You can click on the wall tool and you place walls, and it starts and stops. That's a command. Application runs the whole time Revit usually runs. But to load load a button or anything on the ribbon, it has to be from an application when Revit starts, right? That makes sense. When Revit starts, you have to see the buttons in the ribbon. When you push a button, you can run a command like the wall command, and it would do something specific, like run a command. It would run a tool that would start and stop. If that makes any sense. Anyway, I know it's a lot. So that's the two types of commands, two types of add-ins. There's one that's called a command, and one's called an application. Let me go into that add-ins file, that folder again, real quick, to where the add-ins are. And let's get rid of that data mine other one here. And this one's called Ribbon Tab Example. And that made it much more interesting than that did for built. Actually, I made a much more interesting example than the one I showed there. Ribbon Tab Example. So let me run this guy, and I'll show you what it's doing. And it'll stop at these breakpoints. And if you need any help with running any of these examples later on, let me know. So right now, Revit's launching, and it goes into the application like we've been doing a million times in the startup. This time, we're going to create a ribbon tab. So it's as simple as this. Ribbon tab name is COBUG, application.create ribbon tab. And it's that simple. Hit F11. And then we're going to create a panel and buttons for each panel. In this case, I'm going to create a panel called Ideas and put a button on there. And I'll show you what these mean in a second. But I'm creating a panel called BIM 360 panel, a panel called Firm Resources, and just buttons on those panels. And I'll explain other stuff here too. A Firm Tools panel. But anyway, if I go to the first one here, so the idea is that we're creating a push button. Push button has to know what to do when you push it. So in this case, it's going to run what's called a command, and the command is in another file. It's in another class actually, called right here. So when you push this button, it's going to run this particular command: ribbon tab example suggestions. If I do a search for this real quick here, it's in another class file in this DLL here. So just like the application. This is iExternal command, not iExternal application, but this is the command that will run when you push the button. In this case, this is that I mentioned before, that suggestion button that launches Outlook. This is going to launch Outlook and open an Outlook window. And the idea is that if a user has an idea for a tool they want created, they can push the button, send an email out to the people who care, and then they can work on see about creating a tool for them. That's the idea behind this particular button. But that button launches this particular command, and that's how it works. These are just commands that, if I go back here, if I could look at the ribbon tab BIM 360 here, there's another command right here. And ribbon tab example, I'll show you what this means here. Why it's ribbon tab example.cmd. Let me look at that real quick here. Because name in the namespace is ribbon tab example, and then you put dot and the actual command. That's how it knows which one to launch. In this case, it's going to launch Chrome and the help desk dashboard for BIM 360. If Chrome isn't installed and it crashes, it'll just launch your default browser with that. That's all I'm doing there. I'm just catching that error if you don't have Chrome installed. So if I look at this again, if I run through this guy here, there's a couple other things, a tooltip you can add. There's a way of showing, I'll show you this in a minute, but there's a way of showing a button if a model is open or not, and I'll show you that in a minute. But if I run this guy, let's look at the actual tab. There's COBUG. So it launches because it was an application, and now it's part of our interface, just like ours is. Okay, here it is. So here's the suggestions button right here. So all I do is have text in there for that. If I run this guy, as I mentioned, it's going to go right to that command. right? And then it's going to open up an email. That's all it's going to do. And the email is going to have a couple of hard-coded email addresses that are fake, and I threw a subject in there for the user to say, look, this tool would be great to create or buy. Here's an idea. Let me know what you think. Cancel. All right. Anyway, so that's all it does is open up an email, and ours does the same thing. We have the exact same tool in our ribbon tab. Help desk dashboard. All it's going to do is, I think the debugger broke, unfortunately, but launch the help desk dashboard. I added under health, I also added an image. If I hover over here, in the code, I wanted to not just show text. I wanted to show, well, you know what? If you're going to use the help dashboard, you should at least subscribe to the work sharing option. Okay, I've added an image to that one, so you guys have that as an example. The rest of these, this one has text, and this one is just a dummy command, so it just shows a message because there's no help desk I'm going to show you. This is an interesting one here because I threw this in here last because this one will show a video. So there are times when you can't easily explain what a tool is going to do with a button and with an image. So you can actually show a video. It's an MP4, like Revit Camtasia. And that's part of this too. So this is the automatically design your building. Obviously, it's not real. But, if I click on it, just kidding. I just wanted to show you the video, that it actually can create a video. And it's something people don't normally use, but yeah, it's one of those things that can be really useful in certain situations. Any questions so far? And in the code itself, let me show you something else too, though. Let's say I close my model completely, leave Revit running. And I look at the tab. Notice that some buttons, some tools are all grayed out. Some tools are still highlighted. And here, everything is not highlighted except for auto building because of what's in here in the code. So you can actually determine if the buttons are still visible even if a file is not open. Because these are links basically. These are send an email. Why should a model be open, right? So there's ways of handling that within the application. So in here, each this right here will always show that button if a file is open or not. As long as Revit is running, it'll show that button.